Hi, I'm Nina. I'm from the PennApps board, and I guess like last night, David mentioned something. He's from HackTech, and he said a lot about how we have so many hacks that kind of get created at these hackathons, but they don't really become like products that you can ship in the market or things that actually become like legit startups. And so this is kind of like the inspiration for why we decided to build PennApps Accelerator, which is this 8-week program following PennApps that kind of brings together 5 teams that built hacks at PennApps and kind of helps them with mentorship and gives them this like working space and allows them to create from their like minimal viable product something that's actually shippable. So I guess like if you look at like Penn specifically, we have a ton of resources for people who already have startups. We have a ton of resources for people who kind of already have kind of their foot in the door, but then it's like there's this vast gap between kind of when you build your hack at PennApps and when you actually bring it to market. So again, we started with these 5 teams. We gave them $1,000 stipends and this 8-week curriculum almost in which they would come and have these weekly meetings with us, and we invited mentors from the area, people who were part of accelerators and incubators in Philly and the broader area, and they would come every week. And the entire point was like we would give these startups the surrounding like clout almost around PennApps, so they could say they were a PennApps Accelerator backed company, and that would allow them to give them greater access to resources, including our vast network of sponsors, existing mentors that were kind of part of PennApps already. Great. So after hearing pitches from about like I'd say like 20 or so pretty solid teams, we ended up picking 5 that were pretty outstanding. The first one is LifePatch, which was kind of unusual in that it's actually a lot more hardware oriented, and so that actually made it a lot more difficult for us to help them. The other ones were much more software oriented, and that helped us a bit more in terms of like offering them the resources that we could give them through PennApps. So we found a couple mentors, and we were able to pair mentors up with specific teams, and that allowed them to kind of have this consistent anchor that they could kind of rely on throughout the semester in case they wanted to ask questions about launching their product in the market or what kind of audience they should be targeting. A lot of like business questions almost that I think it's really hard sometimes for engineers to conceptualize. So we had some good coverage. This is from the DP. And it was like a really nice article. And then we also had some bad coverage. This says, Penn backs student-created startup that lets kids cut class. This is with one of our startups, Notoriety, which allowed students to like share into almost like this Dropbox of notes created by all these students all over Penn. And so we thought it was a pretty revolutionary idea, but people obviously can take a really bad spin on it. So I mean, the way we kind of handled this was the fact that like PennApps is not really Penn itself. We're kind of a separate organization, so that alleviated it a little bit, but yeah, there was both good and bad coverage. So I guess in terms of like successes, I think it really allowed us to foster a really close-knit environment in that we were able to meet every week. We had some really stellar guest speakers and a lot of success with our startup teams over the 8 weeks. Kind of on the negative side, school is a really big commitment, and so a lot of people who like want to start their startup at the same time kind of don't realize that there's kind of just too much going on. So a lot of the progress was stalled by like midterms and like finals and stuff like that. So I mean, the point of this was try to keep people on pace and like try to get people to keep working on their startup, but that can definitely be difficult sometimes. Also, another thing that we kind of didn't realize was that startups would be in a like very, very different starting points. So like if a startup is trying to look for marketing, or if a startup is trying to look for how it can launch in the market, like those are very different questions. And so if startups start, or another one was like in the middle of development, like these are kind of like issues that we didn't really feel like we had mapped out very well. So end comments, I think if we were to do it over, and we probably will next semester, we'll try to actually get a physical space where we can kind of just like have everyone convene almost in their downtime. And if you're thinking about starting something like this at your own place, definitely think about building that community. So that's all. Thanks.